So let's start today's lesson with a warm-up. I'm going to ask you to read through it before you start. So it is the opposite of 2 squared, plus 3 times -4 minus -4 squared. I don't have any parentheses. They are just there to mean multiplication and to capture the negative. This is just squaring the 2. This is squaring the -4. So 2 squared is 4. -4 squared is 16. And then I'm just going to bring everything else down. There's my opposite. There's my multiplication. There's my subtraction. So now I'm going to multiply. Remember, when you multiply, always use the sign. That's a +3 and a -4. So that is a -12. And then I'm going to bring everything else down. Now I'm just moving on the number line. If I'm at -4 and I move to the left 12 more spots, I'm at -16. And then I move to the left 16 more spots, I am at -32. This is like I spent $16, I spent another $16, I spent $32. Okay, so let's start with algebraic properties. Algebra is how math operates, and the properties help you manage algebra and make things easier. So the properties are there to help you combine things and whittle your algebraic expressions down so they're manageable. So they are rather handy. The first one we're going to look at is the commutative property. There's no N in it. It is commutative. And I like to look at this as, it's based on the word commute. And if you commute, you move from one place to the other. So if your parents commute to work, they are getting in their car and driving from your house to their work. So they are commuting, moving places. So commutative property says that the order of your addition or multiplication does not matter. And you notice that these are all addition or all multiplication. You can't switch things around if it's not all the same operation that's happening. So basically in addition, it means that 7 plus 3 is the same thing as 3 plus 7. And in multiplication, 9 times 6 is the same thing as 6 times 9. So you can see the order doesn't matter. I could do 9 times 6, I get 54. And I do 6 times 9, excuse me, I also get 54. So the commutative property helps you move things around. And you've actually been doing the commutative property probably longer than you realize. So let's say I gave you a list of numbers like this to add together. And I said, okay, add those together for me. You're not just going to go straight down the line. You're going to go, oh, well, look, I can make these into groups. There's 10, there's 20, there's 30. So you can see I added them out of order. So I used the commutative property to reorder those things. So when I add them, it just is easier for me. So I'm sure you've been doing that kind of stuff your whole math life. So now let's look at the associative. The associative says how you group numbers does not change the answer. So they are associated with each other. What's inside the parentheses is associated by these parentheses. And so you can reassociate things. Again, it has to all be addition or all be multiplication. You can't reorder stuff or reassociate stuff that's not doing the same operation. So you'll notice in this first one, I have 5 plus 3 in parentheses plus 4. And then I have 5 plus, and then 3 plus 4 are now inside parentheses. So the order didn't change. It's still 5 plus 3 plus 4, but just the grouping has changed. So you can see that here I'm going to get 8 plus 4 is 12 on this side. And I come over here, now I have 5 plus 7. I still get 12. You might want to do this if you had something grouped together that you wanted to do, didn't want to necessarily do first. So let's say I had something like 12 plus 7 and had that in parentheses, and then I added plus 3. Well, order of operations tells me I have to do 7 plus 12 first, but maybe I don't want to do that first because I can see that if I did this, that's 10. And so now I know my answer really quickly. It's 22. Instead of having to do it in the order that it's presented, I can reassociate things. So same over here in multiplication. I have 7 times 5 in parentheses times 2. So I have 35 times 2. So I would get 70. But over here, I have to do this first, so it's 10 times 7. I still get 70. So I'm going to reorder these or regroup these because I want to do this first because that's a 10. And multiplying by 10 is really easy. So I'm going to kind of switch my associations around just to make my life a little easier. The next one is the identity property. The answer does not change as a result of the operation. So this seems kind of silly, you need a property for this, but you do. There's the addition identity property. So it says that anything plus 0 stays itself. And so with multiplication, anything times 1 stays itself. So I like to look at it, no matter what you've done to it, it keeps its identity. So by adding 0, it has not changed who it is. And by multiplying 1, it has not changed who it is. So it keeps its identity. The inverse property, I've already talked about this a little bit way back. So opposites cancel each other out. So that's an inverse of each other. It's that additive inverse. So any number plus its opposite is 0. And so that's kind of helpful too if you had a long list of things you were adding together, you know, like 7 plus 12 plus 13 minus 7. I could just look at this and go, oh, well, there you go. They just cancel each other out. So now I just know my answer is 25. I don't have to worry about the adding 7 and then taking 7 away. When I see those two things are opposites of each other, I know I can just cancel them out. Again, all addition. So let's just look at using the properties. So this first one, I'm looking at it, and if I'm doing the order of operations like it's meant to be, I would have to do 17 plus 16 plus 4. But I don't want to do that because I know this is 20. And so I'm going to add it a little bit out of order, but that's okay because it's all addition. And so I end up with my answer really quickly of 37. So sometimes you don't have to do them, you know, like moving them around just makes your life a little easier. So like, let's look at this one, 5 times 12 times 2. Well, I don't want to do 5 times 12. I want to do 5 times 2 because I know 5 times 2 is 10. So then that's 10 times 12, and my answer is really easy, 120. But again, all multiplication. So here's the associative property. So this was an example of the commutative property. Here's an examples of the associative. So if I was doing it like it wants me to, the order of operations wants me to do that 6 plus 27 first, but I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to do that. I want to do this because I see that's 30. And so I reassociated the 27 and the 3, and my answer is real easy with the 36. So here again, 13 times 5, I don't want to do that because I see, look, here's 5 times 2, and that's 10. So that's pretty easy. Now I know my answer is 130. So these are examples of the associative. I reassociated. When I look at this one, I see right away, look at that, 6 plus 19 plus negative 6. So these are additive inverses of each other and they cancel out, and my answer is just 19. Well, when I'm multiplying here, look at this, I have the 0 right here. So I'm going to multiply that, and it's just going to be 0. This is the identity property. This is the ID property. Because look at this, what I'm doing to it does not change what it is. I multiplied 1,237 by 1, and it's still 1,237. And I added 0 to 37, it's still 37. So the properties can help you whittle things down, maybe cut down on the amount of math you have to do, which is always nice. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. And thanks for listening.